statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Welcome, Bitcoiners. Welcome, traders. Got a lot of traders here. Welcome, followers. Welcome, supporters. Welcome, haters. Welcome to all those who are old followers here. And also welcome to those who are new. I'm not quite sure what happened, guys, but my Twitter or X account went up by 600 followers in less than 24 hours. I don't know why. I don't know where the source of that is. I believe it's due to my Berkshire Hathaway post, which got a far greater amount of engagement than most of my posts do. Maybe that was it. But if you're new here, welcome. I'd love to have you. I'm seeing the change in the nature of many of the responses I got. And that's what actually made me quickly take a look at what is going on, because I've gotten accustomed to the nature and the quality of many of the comments that come back at me through my various posts. But somehow today it changed. And it changed, obviously, because I was reading a lot of comments and responses to my post that were from people who are just haven't been here for a while. And that's perfectly fine. I will have to be honest with you and tell you that's a bit frustrating at times, because, you know, when a whole bunch of new people come on board and start from scratch on a lot of things that we've been dealing with on a day by day, week by week, and sometimes month by month basis, it's almost as if I have to start all over, laying the groundwork, teaching things or sharing things from the basic levels. And so that can be a bit frustrating. A lot of people are erroneously believing as though I'm trying to build some large following here on X. To be very frank with you, it is far more productive, in my opinion, when your account is not large. That when if it remains if it retains a certain amount of quaintness, for lack of a better word, I think that is far more productive. It gives me the ability to actually get to know you a little bit. It also gives me the ability to almost interact with every single one of you, and to get a bit more personal with you. I can see now, even at this particular level, it's becoming a lot more difficult for me to do that. And I actually regard that I regard that with a tad bit of sadness, to be quite honest with you. But that's not to take away from my welcome for anyone who's new here today. If you are not familiar with me, my name is Oliver Velez, and I do call myself a 13%er Bitcoiner. That does not mean that I promote a 13% allocation to Bitcoin. I consider a 13%er one of the rarest groups in the world. And they are a subset of Bitcoiner. They are a subset of the Bitcoin community. You see, the Bitcoin community, or Bitcoiners, for lack of a better word, they are rare in and of themselves. Less than 0.5% of the entire world has, quote unquote, adopted Bitcoin. And what I mean by adopted Bitcoin, I mean they hold Bitcoin. They have recognized it as valuable enough to hold it. Less than 0.5% of 8 billion people actually hold Bitcoin. So just by virtue of being a Bitcoiner, you are extraordinarily rare in this world. Well, a 13%er is actually rarer than a Bitcoiner itself, because a 13%er believes that there is nothing else. A 13%er believes that there is no other alternative. A 13%er believes that Bitcoin is not an invention by a man or a group of men, but Bitcoin is a discovery because they believe that Bitcoin is the manifestation of digital scarcity, and scarcity cannot be invented by a human being. And if Bitcoin is the manifestation of a scarcity that we discovered in the digital world, then it is not an invention by any stretch of the imagination, that it's actually a discovery. And discoveries can't happen twice. You can't have two versions of a discovery. There's only one fire. There's only one number zero. There's only one electricity. These are things that once discovered, you can't have a second one. There's no fire 2.0. There's not even an internet 2.0. And so the 13%er goes that extra mile, having gone deeper down the rabbit hole to realize, holy shit, this is not just another financial product. This is freedom. That this is the ultimate financial freedom that human beings have largely been searching for throughout humanity. You see, throughout all of humanity, humanity can largely be summed up by the search for a sound way to store time. If you were to go back, if you really study history, that's really the entire history of the human species in a nutshell. You see, there was a time during our existences where we were not able to generate excess. That plentifulness, is that a word? I think so. That plenty did not exist for human beings millions of years ago. That there was just pure scarcity everywhere. There was scarcity with calories. Calories weren't plentiful a long, long time ago. Calories aren't plentiful for a portion of the population today, but a long time ago, the entire human race dealt with calories as a scarce resource. Calories today for the large portion of the human race they're pretty plentiful. But the human race moved to this point where it could produce more than what was needed at the current moment, which led the human race to the need, which fostered the need to store one's time, to store one's value for future use. And from that particular point, the entire human experience has been nothing more than a long, very long search for the ultimate store of value. When I say I'm a 13%er, I am one of the very few who believe that Bitcoin is that thing that human beings have been searching for time immemorial. That is what a 13%er is. And I introduce myself, Oliver Velez, as one of those 13%ers. And it is my mission all the way up to Bitcoin reaching $100,000 in US dollar denominated terms to try to convince you to be a 13%er as well. Now, I will say this for the benefit of those who are not used to my live spaces, I do not pass the mic. I found that my style of delivery, the manner in which I share my information and the limited knowledge that I have is just best done without me passing the mic. And so I will tell you that if you request the mic, it is going to be for naught. All right. I also want to let you know that this space is being recorded, so you do not have to sit here and listen to me blab. You can come back and listen to it later. And the last thing I want to tell you before we delve into the topic today is that each and every one of my live spaces does wind up on my Bitcoin podcast. That Bitcoin podcast is named Bitcoin Unleashed. And if you find anything of interest that I have to say here tonight, I strongly encourage that you follow me there, that you find Bitcoin Unleashed on Spotify, And I'd really like you to find it on the Fountain app, because the Fountain app gives me the ability to take an hour, hour and a half long talk with you and to chop it up into these neat little smaller bite-sized clips. And so while you have the full episode that you can watch, you can also digest the entire episodes in these neat little 2 to 8 minute, 6 minute, 4 minute clips, which I find to be quite productive. I will tell you, for those of you who are relatively new here as well, that I do not consider myself a Bitcoin expert by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I consider myself a baby. I have taken on this experiment on Twitter, on X, choose the name, choose the poison of your liking. I've decided to use this platform to basically grow together in real time with you. I can be wrong. I won't go as far as saying that I am often wrong, but maybe I am, but I'm not going to go as far as saying that. But I can be wrong. I stand to be corrected. I bring zero ego to this. And my adoption of Bitcoin and making it the center of my life after poo-pooing it for quite some time is living proof that I do not let ego get in the way of freedom. I do not. It might appear as though I'm egotistical, but no, I'm just steadfast. All right. All right, guys. So let's talk about our topic here today. What is it? What did I name this thing? Let me just make sure I get this right. How to get everything you want in the world. I wish I could add those words to the title. We're going to talk about how you get everything in life you want without ever selling your Bitcoin. Listen to me carefully. I got a lot of flack right here today on my notion, on my belief that the day is coming where no one's going to sell Bitcoin. No one's going to accept a government printed bullshit piece of paper for the most precious thing on planet Earth. I want you to understand that Bitcoin at $150,000 a coin, which is a stone's throw away right now, $150,000 a coin becomes the most valuable asset on planet Earth outside of gold today. Now, I ask you, what do you sell number 1 for? Number 17, number 7, number 30? What do you sell the best thing in the world for? I'll ask you something else. What do you think the most owned asset in the world is today? It's Apple stock. Why is Apple stock the most owned asset on planet Earth? Because it's number 1 outside of gold. You, as a portfolio manager, as a financial expert or professional, you cannot not have some allocation to Apple. Why? Because it dominates the S&P 500, it dominates all the indices, it dominates the financial landscape, and you will never get fired for holding some allocation to the number 1 asset in the world, Apple. You'll never get fired for that. You'll never be looked at bad for that. It doesn't matter how bad Apple stock performs, you're going to be okay if you say, well, I'm holding Apple. And so what do you think is going to happen when Bitcoin overtakes Apple as the number 1 asset, knowing today that only less than half of 1% of the world actually holds it? And even less than half of 1% of the entire financial community, the global financial community has access to it. What do you think is going to happen when Bitcoin becomes the number 1 asset and they have to hold it? It is going to go into the freaking stratosphere. That's what's going to happen. The world is short the upside of Bitcoin, people. I want you to understand that. And I know I'm speaking to a lot of people who don't have a financial background. I have almost 4 decades. I dedicated my entire life to financial markets. I've done nothing else. I've breathed and lived the markets for 44 years now, 37 of those years as a professional. I've never had a plan B. I never did anything else. I have zero other expertise. But I will tell you this. I do understand that a lot of people here may not know the terminology. So let me back up and just say this. Being short, most people are familiar with, but being short, the upside is something that I think all of you should understand. You see, you can have a short position in something. That's one thing. You're betting to the downside, but you can be short the upside with zero bet whatsoever, which means that you are indifferent to what it does. You just don't have it. But at a certain point, Bitcoin's going to reach a certain point at which the world will have to have it. Guys, listen to me carefully. You have to have an allocation to number one. It is not a choice. You may not like number one. When Bitcoin becomes number one at $150,000 a coin, you may not like it, but you have to have it. You may hate what it stands for. It doesn't matter. You have to have it. Every financial institution, every bank, every insurance company, every pension fund, every hedge fund, every mutual fund is going to have an allocation to Bitcoin. It's not going to be a choice. You have to have number one. Now, let's go back to my original question. What do you sell number one for? You have to think about this. As Bitcoin becomes number one and continues to distance itself from everything else, becoming more number one and more number one and more number one, what do you actually give it up for? It starts to become not only intellectually stupid. My father used to say, never underestimate the power of stupid, Oliver. But at a certain point, it becomes intellectually dumb to say, I'm going to give up number one for number 20. And my point is that as Bitcoin becomes more and more number one, a larger and larger number of people will realize, if I let this go for number 3 or number 7, when I come back for it, it might not be there. Or if it's there, it might be 4 times more the cost. And so fewer and fewer people will sell Bitcoin as its value rises. This is a natural phenomenon. It is not a theory. It's a freaking fact. And let's consider this. Years ago in Bitcoin's cycle, the all-time HODL rate was something like 40%. So the all-time high 1-year HODL rate was like 40%. So basically, you had a scenario where 40% of all the Bitcoin outstanding didn't move in a year. The HODL rates were relatively low in the early days because of the idea that Bitcoin was a peer-to-peer cash network. Is supposed to buy pairs of socks with it, and coffees and danishes and dot. And so because Bitcoin was in that era where people approached it as just something you use it for other things, the HODL rate was relatively low. But that 40% 1-year HODL rate went to 50% over time as the value rose up, which means that 50% of all the Bitcoin that ever came into existence didn't move in a year. And then it became 60%. 60% of all the Bitcoin that ever came into existence didn't move, stayed dormant. Then it became this cycle. Then it became 70%. Today, something like 74 to 76% of every single Bitcoin that exists today hasn't moved in a year. These people don't give a fuck. Do you understand? You can take the price down, they're holding. You can talk bullshit, they're holding. You can write a negative article, a foot piece, a hit piece, they don't care. They're not selling, they're not moving. Some stupid politician can take the podium and have some ridiculous congressional Senate hearing knocking Bitcoin. They don't care. The HODL rate went from 40 to 50 to 60 to 70. And guess where it's going next? 80. And then guess where it's going next? 90. And then guess where it's going after 90? For all of you intellectually challenged folks out there, it's going to 100. It's imminent, people. You don't sell high value for less value. I'm not making this up. People are arguing with me here today as if this is my theory. This is freaking historical monetary history. It's fact. It has happened to every single money that has ever existed. The good money is always held and the bad money isn't. So let's talk about this, guys, because really what I am speaking of here is actually what's called Gresham's Law. Now, for anyone who wants to do their own research, and I strongly encourage that you do that, I want you to look up Gresham's Law. You see, Bitcoin is disappearing. That's what that HODL rate is telling us, right? 40% HODL rate, 60%, 70%. It's being removed. It's being HODLed. It's being hoarded. It's being held. It's not being sold for your bullshit piece of money, piece of paper anymore. More and more people are refusing to sell it. So Bitcoin, as a result, is disappearing, and it will continue to. Now, Gresham's Law is a monetary principle that states the following. Listen to me carefully. Bad money drives out good money. I'm going to repeat that. Gresham's Law is nothing more than a monetary principle. It states the following. Bad money. Let's say paper money, government money, the US dollar, the Venezuelan bolivar, the Turkish lira. Do you understand? The Argentinian peso. These are bad monies, right? All of them. The US is the cleanest of all the dirty shirts, but it's still a dirty shirt. It's still in the group called bad money. Why? Because it debases in value forever. It never stops debasing. It's just debasing slower than all the others I mentioned in that list, but it's still debasing. It's like watching the same airplane crash, but this one in slow motion. It's still a freaking airplane crash. It's just that this one, the US dollar's airplane crash is in slow motion. That's all. So you take bad money. Gresham's Law states that bad money, government money, printed money, fiat currency drives out good money, Bitcoin. Now I want you to think about that. But drives it out of what? This intuitively may not make sense to a lot of people. What do you mean that bad money kills the good money? No, I didn't say that. What Gresham Laws doesn't say that it kills the bad money. It drives it out. Drives it out of what? Circulation. Isn't that what's happening to Bitcoin right now? Isn't a 40% HODL rate going to a 50% HODL rate more coming out of circulation? Isn't a 50% HODL rate to a 60% HODL rate more coming out of circulation? We're at 74% HODL rate. 74% of every single Satoshi that has ever been mined since January 9th of 2009 is out of circulation, and it's going to 80%, it's going to 90%. And I'm here to tell you, whether you like it or not, it's going all the way to 100%. I didn't make this law up. This is Gresham's law. This is a freaking monetary principle, and it is what has happened for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years. Whether you agree with it or not, it is freaking financial facts. Now listen. Let's delve a little bit deeper into Gresham's law to understand, why does bad money drive out of circulation the good money? It's very simple. You see, Gresham's law applies when two forms of money, a bad money and a good money, are available to everyone. So you got fiat currencies are available, and now there's a good money, Bitcoin is available. So now enter Gresham's law. But Gresham's law can only enter if the bad money is legally forced on you. You see, that's where Gresham's law comes into effect. You've got two monies available. I've got a bad money that goes down in value, and I've got another good money that doesn't go down in value. I've got them both available, but I am forced to give my life for the bad money. I am forced to give my employer 40 hours a week to earn a bad money. I am forced to pay my taxes in a bad money. I am forced to get educated to try to earn more of the bad money. I am taught to dedicate my life for the bad money. I'm taught to get on trains and planes and buses and take taxi cabs and Ubers to earn the bad money. The bad money is forced on me, but yet there's a good money that's available. But it's the bad money I'm forced to give my life for, my time for, my effort for, my work for. I'm supposed to give my intelligence to the bad money. I'm supposed to give my skill to the bad money. I'm supposed to give everything I know to the bad money. But this is not my choice. I am compelled to do this. I am forced by law to do this, by no choice of my own. So when this happens, when a good money emerges in a scenario where a bad money is being forced on people, the people start moving to the good money and holding it. This has happened for thousands of years, people. I'm not making this up. Go freaking look it up yourself, you lazy bozos. This is not my theory. You see, if a good money doesn't emerge, you're just stuck in prison. You're stuck as a slave, being forced and compelled to work for another man's coupon, another man's piece of paper. But when a good money emerges, as it did January 3rd, 2009, when a good money emerges over time, people begin to put a little bit in the good money and hold it. And that starts to increase. The bad money goes a little bit into the good money and they hold it. The bad money goes into the good money and then they hold it. They hold it. They hold it. They hold it. And this is how the good money is being held. And another way of saying it, it's being removed from circulation. It's not moving because you're hoarding it, because you're hodling it, because you're saving it. This is called, and I'm sure most of you have heard this term, this is called a store of value. You see, when you have a bad money that you're forced to generate, but you have another good money that is available to you, you begin to store your value in the good one and use the bad one for all of your bullshit. I gotta pay my rent. I gotta pay my mortgage. I gotta fill the car up with gas. I gotta that. So you use the bad for all the bullshit in your life, and you hoard and save or store in the good one. And there are a lot of people saying, well, Oliver, what's the benefit of Bitcoin if people are holding it? You bozo, what are you talking about? The store of value is what creates its future use as a medium of exchange. You can't have people sloshing around with their Bitcoin until enough people have it. Imagine being in the wilderness and you're the only one with Bitcoin. What use is that? You need everyone to have Bitcoin to have an ecosystem where you know everyone has Bitcoin so I can trade with them. But before you get to a place where almost everyone has some degree of Bitcoin, how can it ever move to medium of exchange where you're trading with it and using it? I am not one of these Bitcoiners that says, go out there and spend your Bitcoin because that's what helps Bitcoin. No, 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 no. And you don't know financial history, sir, if that's what you're saying. I'm sorry if this disappoints some of the Bitcoin OGs who thinks that this should be used like cash. Bullshit. It should be used like a vault. It should be used to store. That stage is necessary for a healthy medium of exchange to naturally evolve later. And what the shitcoin space tries to do is cheat and jump all the way to medium of exchange. We don't need to be a store of value. We can skip over store of value and we can go right to medium of exchange. Cheater. That's why you're a shitcoin. You're a cheater. You can't have a medium of exchange that is sound and that is solid and that is good unless it's first spends an inordinate amount of time being hoarded, being hodled, being stored. And there's a great many people, there's too many people that just don't understand how money evolves in stages. It first starts off as a collectible, and then it moves itself into a store of value. Bitcoin today is a burgeoning store of value. It's in the beginning of its store of value stage. We don't want to rush the store of value stage. We don't want to rush the Gresham's law era of this money right now, because the store of value phase is the biggest and most exponential number go up phase. The medium of exchange is after number go up, after prices, after value stabilizes, and it becomes a stable store of value that eventually naturally morphs into a trading item that's more a medium of exchange. But we don't want to rush medium of exchange, because the number go up phase, the wealth creation phase, is everybody hold on to this. Don't spend a freaking single Satoshi. Now, I'm being a little facetious with that. I do walk around with a hot wallet with, a small amount of Satoshis, because I like to support any company today who's bold enough to basically say, I accept Bitcoin, a coffee shop, or whatever it is. I do that, and I do that gladly. What I'm talking about is spending it in bulk and spending it seriously. We don't want to do that today. It is not ready for medium of exchange, and we don't want it to be ready for medium of exchange. Let this Gresham's law phase do its magic, do its work. Let the good money drive, let the bad money drive more and more Bitcoin into the pockets, into the vaults, into the addresses and the wallets of millions upon millions of people. We want this to be taken out of circulation. That means that the money is becoming more and more sound. No one stores in a freaking crappy money. Why do you think idiots are throwing money up in strip clubs and throwing money up in the air and buying bullshit purses with other men's names on them and $2,000 belts and bullshit like that? Because the money is bad. Because if the money was good, they wouldn't do that with it. If the money's going to be less next year, you might as well spend it now, right? But what if the money's better next year? Then you say, whoa, wait a minute. Shoot, I am buying this Tesla right now for $45,000, but this could be a $200,000 purchase in 6 months. You see, you double think. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. This could turn out to be the most expensive Tesla has ever sold. I'm buying it for $45,000, but this amount of Bitcoin that I'm buying it for could be worth 250 and then 500,000 and then $1 million. No, I'm not buying that with my Bitcoin. And we need that stage. So when money is being hoarded, when it is not being spent, when people refuse to give it to you for bullshit, like pieces of paper, that's when you know it's sound. Gresham's law is revealing to you what's sound. And I am here to tell you, people, a 74% HODL rate where 74% of every single Satoshi that's ever been mined hasn't moved an entire year, with all the ups and downs, a big giant 74%, 78% bear market to the downside, and still 74% hasn't budged. That is Gresham's law shouting through a freaking megaphone. Bitcoin is sound. The bad money is driving Bitcoin into the pockets of people. It is driving it out of circulation. That's a good thing. That's a good sign. Gresham's law. Look it up, bozos. I do call you bozos affectionately. I hope you know that. If you like, I can change my voice when I say it. Gresham's law. Look it up. Bozos, look it up, bozos. Bozos, look it up. Look it up. Ah. All right. Now, a similar monetary law. I have to touch on this, guys. I'm sorry. A similar monetary law is called Thiers Law. French economists, I believe, but Thiers Law. Now, listen to me carefully. Thiers Law states what at first glance appears to be the opposite of Gresham's law. Now, I didn't make this up, guys. This is a monetary principle as well. So Thiers' law seemingly is opposite to Gresham's law. It states that good money drives out the bad money. And you say, what the heck, Oliver? You just said that Gresham's law is bad money drives out the good money. Now you're telling me that good money drives out the bad money? That's just the opposite. But that is what Thiers' law states. It states that no, it's the good money that drives out of circulation the bad money. So how do we reconcile these two seemingly opposite things? Well, they're not opposite so much. Let's take a look. You see, Thiers' law that states good money drives out bad money applies when two monies are available, just like our other scenario, but neither one is legally forced on you. You see, so Gresham's law comes into being when the bad money is legally forced on you. You are compelled to work for the bad money. But what about the scenario where you have freedom of choice? And both are legal. The bad money is legal to work for, and the good money is legal to work for. This is the scenario today in El Salvador, where Bitcoin is legal tender. And so they have a bad money, the US dollar, which they obviously assume is a good money because it was better than the peso they had before. But They have a choice. Now, when you have a choice, it neither is compelled on you or forced on you. This is when Thiers Law comes into existence. And all of a sudden, the good money becomes chosen 9 times out of every 10. And so people begin to say, you know what? I know you can give me, I know you have a choice of giving me dollars or Bitcoin for my service. I'll take the Bitcoin. Choice. I've built this product for you, but I choose Bitcoin. Pay me in Bitcoin. Don't pay me in dollars. And when you have a scenario where they can legally choose either one, over time, the good one gets chosen 9 times out of every 10, which makes the weak one become less and less relevant. So it's being driven out of circulation in a very different way in the Thiers Law scenario. It is becoming irrelevant. You see, in Gresham's law, Bitcoin is being pushed out of circulation by the bad money, but it's being pushed into your wallet. It's being pushed into your vault. It's being pushed into cold storage. That's a different moving out of circulation. In the Thiers Law scenario, it's the weak is being removed out of circulation via irrelevance. That almost everyone doesn't choose it anymore. Isn't this what happened to every single money that's not around today now? Isn't it Thiers Law that took effect and sent to the cemetery of all currencies? The currency cemetery, every single money that used to exist that doesn't exist anymore. When's the last time you've seen a Roman denarius floating around? Currency cemetery. German marks, anyone? German marks, currency cemetery. Italian lira, currency cemetery. Venezuelan bolivar, almost in the currency cemetery. Argentinian peso on the way to the currency cemetery. The point I'm trying to make here is I'm reconciling these two seemingly opposing laws, but they're not really opposing. One or the other comes into effect depending upon the legal standing of the day. So as long as we are forced to work for the US dollar or any other currency for that matter, it's Gresham's law. You're going to take a portion of the bad money and store it in the good one and remove it from circulation. What's another way of saying I remove it from circulation? It's not for sale, buddy. I'm not selling it to you to go back to the bad money. Are you freaking stupid? I escaped from the bad money. I'm not going back. I'm free from the bad money. I'm not going backwards. I dumped slavery. And I have freedom now. I'm not going back to slavery. And there's a lot of people here who still don't get it at that level, and that's okay. Everyone's at different levels. But you know what I find very fascinating? And I find it quite alarming, actually. And I did a post similar to what I'm about to say here today as well. I find it quite alarming how many people have dedicated their entire lives to making money. They wake up with the idea of making money. They go to bed with the idea of making money. Their whole life is surrounded by how can I make money? How can I make more? How can I get more money? And What is so alarming is how few of those people have ever taken the time to actually study money itself, to study its history. The numbers of people out here biting, scratching, fighting for money every day of their life, it consumes their whole life. The numbers of people who've actually sat down and said, what exactly is money anyway? Is it from God, like gold? Or is money made by a man? And if it's made by a man, by which men? Who gets to choose the men to make the money? And why don't I have that choice? I mean, the numbers of people who've actually asked these questions and decided to study the thing they dedicate their lives to is alarmingly small. I see it here in your post. I see that when I make a post, very few actually understand I am talking to you about monetary principles that have existed for thousands of years. I'm talking to you about history. I have studied the history of money. I know the 4 stages that every sound money must go through. I know the intricacies of Gresham's law and Thiers' law. And I make posts about these things without giving you the title of the laws. And you fight me like it's my idea. You haven't studied money. You have no concept what it is. You have no concept that a money controlled by a human being will always be debased. So a money run by human beings will always be bad. You have no concept of that. Most people have no concept of what debasement is. Most people here, right here on my feed, and I'll go as far as saying most people listening to me right now, this moment, this second, you actually believe prices go up. That's how off you are, because you have refused, or you have just simply not sat down one moment to study money, the thing you dedicate your life to. But you'll come here as a keyboard warrior and fight me thinking that I'm giving you my ideas, that I've pulled out of left field. It's alarming to me. It's alarming to me how many people actually think prices rise, that they're supposed to rise, versus looking at that through monetary debasement, bad money being inflated away on you. I am here to tell you that 74% is going to 84% people. 84% is going to 94% people. I'm sorry if you don't like this. And it's going to 100%. No one is going to sell Bitcoin for your bullshit piece of paper. Period. End of story. No one's going to take the most precious thing on planet Earth at $150,000, $200,000 a coin and accept your paper for it, unless they're just a bozo. And like my father used to say, never underestimate the style of stupid. But what will happen over time is that bozo will sell Bitcoin to someone like me, and it's gone forever. They'll never see that again, ever. There will come a time when, if you let this go, you will never get it back. Ever. I gave the analogy in one of my posts yesterday. I want you to imagine there's 8 billion people on planet Earth. It is estimated by the year 2050, there will be 10 billion people on planet Earth. What if there were only 21 million homes for people to live in the entire world, and there could never be another home? Now, let's take 6 million of them away because the homes got destroyed. So now we've got 15 million homes for 10 billion people in 2050. Everyone else is homeless. They wish they had a home. How many people with a home do you think will ever sell their home? Zero, people, zero. Do you know why? Zero will sell the home that gives their family shelter in a scenario like that, because they know if they sell it, they will never in a million years get another opportunity to have a home. This is Bitcoin, people. 21 million, 6 million loss. 10 billion people in 2050 are going to be struggling, fighting, scratching for something that you're selling now. You idiot. There will come a time where no one's going to let this go ever, because they will know that if I let this go, the most precious thing on earth, the scarcest asset in the world, the hardest money that humans have ever come in contact with, if I let it go, the person I'm letting it go to will never let it go. I'll never get it back. Those of you who do not believe this, you think this is just another financial trick, another financial product that you just sell for bad money. No. You get rid of the bad money for this. It's you got it backwards. You don't sell the good money to go back to get more of the bad money. You sell the bad money to get the good and you keep it. That's Gresham's law, monetary principle. That's not from Oliver Velez. I didn't create that. Go look it up. Do some freaking work. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Am I talking to myself here? What the heck, guys? What is going on? Are you listening to me? Are you hearing me? What? Talk to me. Tell me. Or am I freaking talking to myself? How many people are here? I don't know, it's like 10 people here, 15 people. Thank you very much for showing up. I always show a very small audience, but I actually like that. It's quaint. I used to be offended first, but now I'm not. I like it like that. All right. I said all of that, people. I am going to bring this to somewhat of a close. It's not going to be a short. I'm going to try to make this as short as possible, but I said all of that about Gresham's law, about the fact that Bitcoin is disappearing. It's disappearing because of Gresham's law. Ultimately, Gresham's law morphs into Thiers Law, where the good drives the bad completely into oblivion. But I said all of that. I gave you all of that foundational work to arrive at this point where I explain at least my view of how you will be able to get everything your little heart desires without ever letting go of a single freaking Satoshi. You will be able to get anything on this planet if it is offered as a service, as a product, as a thing. If you have Bitcoin, you will be the elite. I'm not talking about the dust of Bitcoin that you work for. I'm talking about Bitcoin in chunks, Bitcoin with some size. You will be the elite. Red carpets will be rolled out for you like nobody's business. You will sip champagne and sit in the freaking best seats in banks all over the world, the best private rooms of some of the most reputable financial organizations, if you can find any. They will roll out the carpet and treat you like royalty if you have the most pristine asset in the entire world, because they will want you to store it with them. You see, guys, pristine Bitcoin is becoming the most pristine collateral in the entire world. It is the only item that literally trades 24 hours a day with extremely high liquidity, that is never down, never has a glitch, never sick at sea, that cannot be touched, bothered, manipulated, stolen, confiscated by any human being on earth or any organization or entity on earth. There is no other asset like this. And it makes it the most pristine form of collateral the world has ever seen. And because of this, it will be used as the base layer to get anything on planet Earth. All you'll have to do is post Bitcoin, but you'll post it in a way that does not relinquish your ownership. You will post Bitcoin in a way that does not relinquish ownership. It allows someone else to see it in an address. It allows someone to have a key to the address, which allows them to see it, but not touch it, not take it. That's just proof that it's there and proof that it's not going anywhere. The most pristine form of this Bitcoin will come in the form that's called time Bitcoin. Time locked Bitcoin. Sorry about that. I'm not sure how many of you know, but you can time lock Bitcoin. You can say, I'm locking this Bitcoin for 10 years. I'm locking this Bitcoin for 10 days. I'm locking this Bitcoin for 10 months. You can send Bitcoin to an address, right? In the future, 10 months from now, so that in a way, it actually leaves the original address, stays in limbo in a locked position for 10 months, and then on the date of the time lock expiration goes to the address that you sent it to. When that Bitcoin is in limbo between the two addresses, the sender and the receiver, when it is in limbo, it is literally untouchable by God. No one can touch it, not even you. This time lock feature of Bitcoin is going to make this form of collateral the most pristine form of collateral the world has ever known or seen or experienced or come in contact with. And I am telling you, every financial organization in the world will deal with time locked Bitcoin. So what does this mean? It means that these financial institutions are going to require that the Bitcoin be time locked to ensure that the collateral doesn't get damaged, to ensure that the collateral can't be stolen, to ensure that nothing happens to the collateral, that you can't run away with it. It is time locked. Not you, not anyone, not God can touch it. This is going to become the base layer of collateral. And I want you to understand how important that is, because it is collateral that makes the freaking world turn, not money. It is money in the form of collateral. This is how the real estate moguls have done this for eons, guys. There are uber wealthy families who have never sold a single piece of pristine property ever. Yet their families live like kings. They're dynasties. They live at the top of the world and they've never sold ever. Hundreds of years they've never sold. The King and Queen of England, they've never sold the center of London. Never. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. But they've used it as collateral. They've used it to get anything on this planet Earth. Who's not going to give them something owning London? Are you freaking kidding me? Who's not going to give someone who owns the Mona Lisa anything they want? Who? With that kind of security behind you? It's a lock. There are going to be financial services on top of Bitcoin that will make your head spin. I told you red carpet's going to be rolled out for anyone that has this asset in their possession. You want this car, you want this yacht, you want this private plane, you want this trip around the world. What? Tell us what you want. Tell us what you want. And please, can you just bring your Bitcoin to us? Can you lock it here? There are banks. As I speak to you, there are the biggest banks, the biggest financial organizations in the world right now going through the paperwork, going through the legal process to become a Bitcoin custodian. There in the future, you will see Bitcoin banks pop up all over the freaking world. I'm not talking about a regular bank. I'm talking about a Bitcoin specialty bank. They do everything connected to Bitcoin, and you will never have to relinquish ownership of your Bitcoin to get anything. And here's something else. If you play your cards properly, you'll never have to pay these loans that you get on top of with your collateral. You'll never have to pay them back. Because Bitcoin rises every 4 years. It's mathematically designed to rise in value every 4 years of its life forever, people. This is not something that's just, it's going to go away forever. I always remind you, my mom used to say, every time I say that, I remember my mom sitting me down as a little boy and say, Oliver, you say never all the time, but I'm telling you, Oliver, never say never because you never know. And I say, Mom, you just said never. And she says, boy, don't mock me. You know what I'm saying, Oliver. Never say never. Well, Mom, I'm sorry. I'm saying never. There will come a time where no one sells this. There will come a time where everyone uses it as collateral, the way the real estate moguls have used their property as collateral generation after generation after generation. But this is a better property because the collateral can't burn down. The collateral can't be stolen. The collateral can't get tied up in an ownership battle. Do you realize that he who has the keys are the owners of Bitcoin? Case closed. No questions. No legal ambiguity. You know how many pieces of property are tied up in legal battles? I own it. No, he owns it. No, that was my granddaddy. And I came out of the woodworks. They didn't know about me, but here I am now, and it's mine. None of that with Bitcoin. It's a more superior form of property. And TradFi wants to get their hands all over your Bitcoin. Do you understand? I'm not talking about rehypothecated Bitcoin. I'm talking about a world where the Bitcoin is not rehypothecated. There will be rehypothecation of Bitcoin for sure, because some dummies and bozos will do that, because you'll get better things for rehypothecated Bitcoin, which is giving them the keys and they're able to do anything with your Bitcoin while they give you what you want. But there will be a non-rehypothecated aspect to this where you don't have to give up ownership or control. Well, you don't have to give up ownership of the Bitcoin as long as the Bitcoin doesn't move. And the financial organizations and the Bitcoin banks that have quasi access to the most Bitcoin will become the most desirable institutions by Bitcoiners. The world is going to come to you, Bitcoiner. Please try to get this. The world is going to come to you because Gresham's law, this is disappearing. Right now, every millionaire can't even have a half a Bitcoin in the world today. It's disappearing, and the world is going to clamor for it. The world is going to beg for it. The world is going to want to do anything for you to gain that quasi access to it without you having to sell it. And so I'm saying that it is possible that if you play your cards right, you will never have to pay some of these loans back. So for instance, if you post 10% of your Bitcoin stash up for a yacht or something like that, or whatever it is that floats your boat, right? Well, if Bitcoin doubles, now you can take 5% of the Bitcoin back. You can take 50% of the Bitcoin back because the collateral doubled. So now you're only posting 5%. You initially posted 10% of your Bitcoin to get this yacht, but Bitcoin now doubles. So now you pull 50% of your posted Bitcoin back to yourself. And now you've only got 5% of it locked. But then it doubles again. Now you've only got 2.5% of the Bitcoin locked because you took back the rest. Then it's, you know what I'm saying, all the way to freaking zero. Bitcoin makes everything go to zero. Bitcoin makes all prices collapse to zero. A 10% Bitcoin cost goes to a 50, goes to a 5%, goes to a 2.5. Do you understand? Goes to a 1.25. You get the point. All the way to zero. And so the reason why this is not really thought about today is because we're so freaking early. All of these layers are in the works now. These financial services are going to come. And we're not talking about in your grandchildren's era or anything like that. Guys, this is just a few short years away. Why do you think Wall Street is clamoring now? Why? Why do you think ETFs are such a big thing? They want to own Bitcoin. What's the purpose of an ETF? To own what's the purpose of a spot ETF? To own the underlying asset. So what is that message telling you? That there's 14 of the biggest financial organizations on planet Earth. I'm always joking like this. I don't know about other planets. I have yet to do intergalactic travel. But on this planet, on your planet, the 14 of some of the biggest financial organizations on Earth, they're fighting. They're freaking in an outright war with each other, tripping over themselves to do what? What does an ETF do? Own Bitcoin. It's just a fancy way of saying by Wall Street, I want to own this thing. It's not a fancy way of saying, I want, this is just another financial. That's not the message. You're smarter than that. It's just their way of saying we have to freaking own this. And we can get enough people buying the paper version that we print for them, then we can own the keys and we get the self-sovereignty. We get the freedom. We get the pristine collateral. We give them the paper, but we get the collateral. Do you know what do you know what they're going to do with their ownership of Bitcoin? OMG. But your time is running out. The window of time is running out for you to be able to secure enough of this to be meaningful. Because at $1 million, at $500,000, your $10 DCA doesn't do very much, does it? You're still forced to work for a crappy money. Your crappy money at $500,000 doesn't do what it does at, where's the price at now? Doesn't do what it does here at, where are we at now? Shoot. $47,000 of Bitcoin. And it's going to continue to do worse and worse. You're going to continue to have less of an opportunity to get a decent amount of this. It's going to get harder. It's going to become more and more impossible for you. Why are you even here? Why aren't you just searching right now, this second, trying to get more sats? Why are you not working? Why are you not trying to find every single possible way to gobble up as much as you possibly can? Because you ever hear the saying, he who has the gold rules? Well, I'm telling you, that's no longer. It is now he who has the Bitcoin rules. Don't you see it? Don't you see who in your face is fighting, biting, scratching, warring with each other to get into your space? Do you understand the onslaught that they're going to unleash when all of these things can market to you? That you're going to be bombarded like you've never been bombarded before. You're going to be bombarded to give up your rights. You're going to be bombarded to take a piece of paper instead of get your own, instead of having the own keys to your freedom. Your own keys to this world I've just explained to you, this world where Bitcoin is the pristine form of collateral for everything of value on planet Earth. You're going to be locked out. There's always people locked out of every brand new era, and you're going to be locked out. And guess what? Your family will remember your name, but not in a positive way. For generation after generation after generation, they're going to know that we had a relative that lived during the time where you could actually buy this. Can you imagine that? He could actually buy it and he didn't. Or they're going to say, they're going to look on the blockchain and see your history because it's available for every human being to look at. And they're going to see our uncle, our great grandfather had this much Bitcoin. And look at what this idiot did. This is why our family's in this state. Or your family's going to remember your name for generations to come because you saw what this was. That you lived during the time and you were smart enough to gobble up Manhattan real estate. You were smart enough to hold on to it and not get tricked out of it. You decide, people, how is your name going to be remembered? Because as certain as night follows the day, there will come a day where you won't be able to buy it. I don't care what these bozos say here on Twitter. No one's going to sell you their precious Bitcoin when they can get anything in the world with it without getting rid of it. No one's going to take your stinky piece of paper for it. And if you don't believe that, go right ahead. I know how your family's going to know your name or remember your name. If this has resonated with you in any way, get over to Bitcoin Unleashed, people. Find it on Spotify, find it on Fountain, and start consuming some of these talks. I'm not doing this to generate some following. I don't need that shit right now. I'm telling you, I don't ask you for money. I'm not asking you to sign up for a freaking thing or to sponsor me. I don't do that bullshit here. Do you understand? But I'm not going to do it forever. That I know. And I told you when I'm going to stop. $100,000, I'm done. But this is the time to shout from the rooftops, and I'm pounding the table as hard as I possibly can, in the same way I did with Apple in 1998 with my traders. Then I did it with Amazon in 2003 with my traders. Then I did it with the gold ETF in January 2005 with my traders. Then I did it with NVIDIA in 2010. Then I did it with Facebook, Meta. Then I did it with Microsoft. Then I did it with, guys, I have done this pounding the table thing over and over and over again. But I tell you this, I promise you this is the last one, because Bitcoin's the ultimate. Now, go to work. Go to work, people. Stack harder. Boom.
My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!